This is gonna be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guests. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously. Have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're gonna show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Sometime you're the wind machine, sometime you're the bug. Sometime it all come together, baby. Sometime you're a fool in love. Sometime you're the
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Dudes and Beer. I am Chris Jordan, your host. We are joined this evening by Matthew Fitzgerald, Stephen Bishop, and Nelson Kugel is back.
What's up?
He has been absent for a little while. He is back, though, ladies and gentlemen. And tonight we're going to be talking about Harambe the gorilla, as well as what the heck happened with that situation, dude. Like, how did a kid even end up in that enclosure?
That's what I'm saying.
And then on top of that, you know, just like what's going on with parenting today in America and the issues that they face right after this message from our sponsor.
Hey, are you a musician? Do you play guitar, bass, or synthesizers? Are you a studio engineer looking for that different sound? Well, fret no longer. Austin Hot Mods is there for you. From Boss to Ibanez, DoD to EHX and more, Austin Hot Mods provides over 50 different modifications and customizations to some of the most popular guitar pedals on the market, from vintage to modern. So if you're looking for that boutique custom sound on a Craigslist budget, look no further. Contact Austin Hot Mods today and mention that you heard it here on the Dudes and Beer podcast for 5% off your first guitar pedal modification. Visit them online at austinhotmods.com. Texas owned and operated and home of the Mod of the Month deal. That website again is austinhotmods.com.
And we are back. Well, you know, it's been a little while since Nelson's been with us, so I want to hear what you have to say about it. Have you been following the story of Harambe the gorilla online?
I just recently stumbled upon it today. I didn't know anything about it until today.
Okay.
And, it really stunned me. I was just confused. First off, how a 3-year-old boy was able to get in there, fall down the moat,
right?
Yeah,
and all that jazz. I read up on it. I wrote down some notes, but watching the video too was really interesting because that gorilla was totally protecting that child. Wasn't showing any threat to the kid. He was just like making sure that this kid is safe until someone came out to help him. And we had an incident, something like that, years ago when a child fell in. Same thing, a 3-year-old boy.
Gorilla
and it was a female
enclosure.
gorilla. And the female gorilla actually carried this child over to the paramedics.
Right.
Nothing happened to the gorilla. I don't see why they needed to shoot the gorilla because it wasn't posing a threat.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good point.
I agree to a point. I think it's a very, very... I think there's a lot of gray area with this situation. Do I think that they needed to shoot the gorilla? I honestly don't know. You know, I can't say definitively yes or definitively no, and that's simply because, you know, as far as the story goes, it happened in an instant. Okay, and you know that those cages around gorilla enclosures are fairly well fortified, but a 3-year-old child.
Yeah. So how did the kid get in?
I think it was 4 actually, but
Well,
Still.
no, it was 3.
3?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was 3. So this 3-year-old kid who is tiny, you know, was able to fit under a point in the fence. And if you're a parent and you're standing there, and all of a sudden, like, you're standing up next to the fence, and all of a sudden you turn to your friend or another person and you say something, whatever, and then you turn and look, and your child's inside the fence. I mean, it can happen.
Is
in
that
a split
how this
second.
happened, or
That's
is this speculation?
Well, that's what they're saying.
She said
okay?
she was with her son when it happened.
Right.
When he left the premise. But I don't feel like she was being a decent guardian to actually keep an eye on her 3-year-old boy.
She didn't
in the zoo.
She didn't sound very concerned when she was hollering in the video. You know what I mean?
Mommy's
here.
I play devil's advocate on that because if you're standing up next to a fence with your kid and you're looking at the gorillas, like if you're looking at the animals for even as much as like 10, 15, 20 seconds, and all of a sudden your kid crawls under that fence, if you have been standing next to your child and all of a sudden you look down and he's just inside the fence, you can't get through that fence.
Right.
Like you know, you're a grown human being. You don't have any space to get through that fence or get over that fence.
Right.
That child found a way under.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh shit. You know, like so what do you do in that situation, right?
Well,
and then
But was that the situation?
well, that's what they're saying.
That's
and we
what
don't,
she
I mean,
told the reporters
with
that she was with her
with that
child.
being the situation, the main thing is even, you know, you have people like Jack Hanna coming out. You have there was another ape handler that was on Facebook today that wrote a huge commentary about it and was like, you know, unfortunately, yes, the zoo did make the right decision in this case. Like, you have an animal that is an animal.
Right.
Protecting a child or not, holding that child, should it get panicked, the way it dragged it through the water, something like that. If they were to dart the animal and it fell on top of the child, it could literally suffocate.
That's exactly what Jack Hanna said. He was on, I forget, CNN, I think, or something like that. And he was talking about it, and he was like, look, this animal wasn't necessarily causing harm to the child, but it's an incredibly aggressive animal, and it's an incredibly large animal, right? So what do you do in that circumstance?
Very
well,
powerful.
you know, all of a sudden the zookeepers and those folks are talking to one another being like, if we try to tranquilize this animal,
it could go into fits.
That's when it's, you know.
Well, that's what they were saying. But when I first heard about it, it's like, why didn't they tranquilize the animal? Why did they just have to shoot him?
Because there's a time frame, however short or long, between when that dart goes into that animal and when that animal actually passes out.
Yeah.
So if that animal is all of a sudden hit with something,
it's gonna freak
and they
out.
start and something like happens to it, there is a very, very, very serious potential that animal is going to fucking go buck.
And if it's panicked to begin with, its adrenaline is already up, which means that dosage isn't going to be what it takes to bring it down.
Yes, it will take quite some time for that animal to get
in that time frame, you have an animal that's now drugged and panicked that has control of a child.
And a gorilla weighs what, 1,000 pounds?
800
pounds?
And you're looking at it being 10 times stronger than like a really, like if you can bench press 300, imagine being able to bench press 10 times that.
So his normal
That's what a male
strength,
silverback
his normal
can do.
strength with the adrenaline. Can you imagine that? You know
exactly.
what I mean?
The picture that I took from it is like the western lowland gorillas. They're captured in the wild and then they're sold to zoos. You know, they're they have a large endangerment status right now because people hunt them for meat, and they pose a threat to the crop there in West Africa. But I just feel like, why are the animals locked up? I believe it would be a lot easier and less expensive is if we could travel to the areas where these animals are living in their environment and we can see them instead of having to capture them. You know, there's a lot of things that have built up to this situation. You know, with Hollywood, you know, I was even talking to Chris before the podcast. It's like, it wouldn't have surprised me if this mother and her son went and saw the new Jungle Book, and he goes to the zoo and he's like, oh man, I'm going to make this reality. I'm going to see if I can go out there and talk to this gorilla, you know? And you know, and
well, if she took him to see the Jungle Book, that would be pretty hardcore, because from what I understand, it's pretty like ungentle. It's very much the original story.
Isn't it a Disney film? That's new Disney for
but it's not made for like 4-year-olds.
Exactly.
It's made for like 10 and up.
Right, but people still bring their children.
Oh
into
yeah,
movies.
absolutely, man. I saw like 8-year-old kids in Deadpool whenever I went for like my second time, and it was like, oh good God.
Yeah, right.
Like, are you joking right
Seriously.
now? Like, I wouldn't even bring a 12-year-old to see this movie.
When I saw Deadpool the first time, I saw it twice in one weekend because I thought it was that fucking good.
It is that good.
But the first time that I went, I had a single seat, and to my left was this dad with his like 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I remember looking
14,
over and,
I mean,
14, but when, like, you know, you're there with your dad and it's just the two of you, like, I mean, there's some pretty solid raunchy stuff in that movie, and I could tell at points.
Nice.
I could tell at points that like they were both like that kind of little bit of uncomfortable. About, like,
you cool with me seeing this? My God, I don't know if you should be seeing this.
Right.
But, like, there was an issue in Houston, and, there have been numerous issues. This has been like the year of zoos. There was an issue right up around the New Year, if y'all recall. I mean, number one, let's start off with Cecil the Gorilla. That was the first episode. Cecil the Lion, rather. That was the first episode that Stephen was ever on, whenever we talked about Cecil the Lion. And the fact is, Homeboy had a legal hunting permit to shoot a lion. Mm-hmm. Now, that really falls on the hunting guide at that point to know the fact that that's Cecil the fucking lion, and you don't shoot that dude.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, and they also with that lion,
lions are like whales. Like the same way you can tell a whale
Cecil
by
had
its fluke.
celebrity status.
You can tell Cecil.
and he was in a protected. Yeah, he was in a protected part of this
why
area.
did the hunting guide even bring him over there? Why
the
did
hunting
that even
guide?
Happen?
There was part of that story was that they lured the lion out of the protected area, and that is what is the most fucked up thing is that they this like prize lion, this like famous lion, whatever.
Here, kitty.
Dentist or whatever wanted to shoot it. And, I mean, he paid an incredible amount of money just to go hunt lions. Yeah. And I'm sure he paid plenty extra to have this guy, when you throw money at somebody,
That's
you say,
like
hey,
you have to be a fly on the wall to know this story, kind of,
Well, you've had that. You've also had, in Houston, actually, I know somebody involved with it. You had the high school kids that broke into the Jaguar enclosure. And this is a group of, AP kids. Like, these are the accelerated class kids. These are kids that got some snaps.
Right.
And they're going to break into a fucking Jaguar enclosure.
Yeah. Just because they can or whatever.
Right.
You're going to hop into an enclosure with a Jaguar. There you go. That's an accelerated student to man.
Yeah, that's
It's ridiculous.
That cat's accelerated,
But
too.
on top of that, you also recently had the, was it Iceland, where the zoo actually, I posted on Dudes and Beer on Facebook, where the zoo actually culled one of its older zebras.
I saw this story.
They, one of the zebra flock was getting overpopulated, so they did what nature would do and took one of the older zebras, humanely put it down, and the next day, when the zoo opened, the lions were eating a zebra. And hey, that's what they do.
Right.
Welcome to nature. It's no different than the Discovery Channel. You just didn't see the takedown.
Right.
And people were up in arms that, their 8-year-old child saw lions eating a zebra. And it's like, but that's what they do.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'll
nature.
never forget one of the first trips that Jen and I took. We had been dating for like a year and a half or something like that. And for our anniversary, we went to Wabasha, Minnesota. In the middle of the winter, got this condo, rented it for 2 nights, whatever. And in Wabasha, Minnesota, the National Eagle Center is right there, on the river. Yeah. So it was only, it's a small town, and this condo we stayed in was only a couple of blocks from the National Eagle Center. And we went and, they have eagles that they are rehabilitating. Mm-hmm. So there were 5 eagles in there that were in an enclosure, and they were their feet were tied, for lack of a better term, to to a log or something they could stand on. So, but I'm from here to the wall, which is about 10, 12 feet maybe from 5 eagles.
Yeah.
Right.
That are sitting there. And these motherfuckers are 3 feet tall. They're huge.
They jack you up.
And in the middle of the day when we went, they were about to do a feeding.
Ooh,
so
sweet.
they brought one of the eagles in, and they talked about the eagle and about what was wrong with it. It had a broken wing or something.
Yeah.
So they were talking about it, and they were giving kind of an overview of bald eagles and that. And then they fed the eagle in front of us. And what they did is they took half of a rabbit and gave it to the eagle.
Right.
And I remember Jen just being like, "Ooh," and like burying her face in my shoulder, being like, "I can't watch this." And I was watching it, being like, "Oh my god,
That's what he eats,
this
man.
is what they do. This is pretty
straight up,
incredible."
yeah.
Right.
You know,
If you go to the Houston Zoo, you'll actually see traps laying around.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see traps laying around, and you see wild rabbits, things like that all over the place. That's what they're doing. They encourage the wild rabbit population, and they trap them, and they feed them to the large reptiles.
Right.
Their boa constrictors. They feed them to the eagles, all kinds of stuff. And another story that happened recently, right after that zoo culled the zebra and gave it to the tigers, was the Smithsonian bald eagle cam.
Yeah, that's what this reminds me of. Yeah.
People were up in arms because they didn't cut the feed when the bald eagle brought back a domestic house cat. Hey, man.
Survival
keep
of
your
the fittest,
keep your
man.
baby dog on a leash.
Right.
Like, I guarantee you, at that park that you went to, if there was a dog, like they said, keep that thing on a leash.
Yeah.
Because it will come and it will snatch up your friggin' dog, and that's dinner.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
it's smaller than it. It's a food item. Welcome
Right.
to the food chain, kids.
Exactly.
Well,
You go ahead.
I
Nelson.
know there's a lot of activists, especially there was this gentleman, his name is Michael A. Budke, and he's an animal rights activist. And he was talking about Umbre, and he was talking about the tragedy occurred because the zoo wasn't following this certain Animal Welfare Act. And I quote, he said, they didn't maintain an the maintenance on the enclosure that violated the Animal Welfare Act. It was the enclosure that the boy snuck through.
Right.
It violated
Yeah.
the Animal Welfare Act. And I get the activists talking about that and how we maintain that, especially if we want to bring animals from the wild for us to view.
Yeah.
And I know zoos have been going on for hundreds of years. I feel that it's not a kosher thing, but what are you going to do? I mean, people want to see these kind of animals.
They've gotten a lot better over the last decade. They've gotten a lot more humane. Now, granted, there are still a lot of small ones. I was telling Stephen before the show, when I lived in Maine, in the town of York, there was it was called York Animal Kingdom, and you went and it was kind of sad, really, mostly. Like, everything had like a concrete bottom. You go to the Houston Zoo and you see the primates, and they're like on hills with trees.
Right.
And all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They try to mimic their area.
Yeah. They try to make as much of a natural environment as possible for them. And now you went to this place, and they had a red-tailed deer exhibit.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's a piece of hurricane fence up around your waist. Between you and a flock
red-tailed deer?
No, of about a flock of about 30 red-tailed deer.
And a fence to your waist.
That you can like get feed that you can also go inside the enclosure with your children.
Right.
Why in the world would you want to do that?
Right.
Have you never seen when animals
And
attack?
isn't those aren't those animals prone to smelling scents that they go,
that just set them off,
Right.
and they're a true herd mentality at that point. Like, if you're talking a herd of 30 deer, like, they're going to panic.
Right.
Like, when the dominant male panics, they're going to fucking panic.
Yeah, they're going to panic.
And you're going to have, like, a trample of 30 deer, and if you think that little bitty hurricane fence is going to stop them, no, they'll either jump it or it will be torn down rapidly.
Right.
And be shrapnel that hits people.
Right.
So it was just one of those things of, like, to me, growing up deer hunting and knowing the dangers of a deer.
Sure.
It was like, wow, like, why would you, like, sure, I fed the deer.
Sure.
But, but still, it was like, why would you ever want to take the liability to put people into an enclosure with an animal?
Why would
Right.
you?
Well, and I remember I was in high school, and we went on some high school trip. I forget if it was a theater trip or a science trip or what it was. But we ended up at this zoo, all of us.
Yeah.
And I forget if I think it was in Chicago actually, when we went on this theater trip and we went to this zoo, and I remember walking around and we walked into the like silverback gorilla exhibit, right? Which was a tunnel that or this trail that kind of went down into a little tunnel, and in the tunnel, like a lot of zoos, you have the big like break-proof glass in between you and the animals, and you can go and you can stand there and you can watch these animals doing their thing. And I remember walking in there, and I heard a noise, and I looked over, and the silverback gorilla exhibit, one of the male silverbacks, was bounding around, and he came up multiple times.
Straight displaying.
Well, multiple times he came up and came around, and he banged on the glass with both fists.
And you saw that shit move, didn't you?
Yeah. And I was
like 2-inch thick,
shit.
2-inch thick Lexan bulletproof
I wonder
glass.
how many people shit their pants.
Right.
Oh, I mean, but I looked at that and I not only realized just how dangerous it was, but also just what you're putting these animals through when you cage them up.
Yeah.
Especially when you're considering taking these animals from the wild, capturing them, and putting them in an enclosure. Now, you can kind of go back and forth if, let's say it's a severely endangered animal, okay? If you capture one of those animals and then keep them in a zoo or in a safe haven or something like that, you can work on repopulating the species, right?
That's the use for a lot of it is for
and the highly intelligent
but
ones, the primates. I mean, come on. I think those guys, they can look in a mirror and know it's them.
They're very intelligent.
So they're very intelligent, knowing.
We were talking about that, Coco the gorilla, everything else. But the fact is, Coco the gorilla has never lived in a society of gorillas.
Yeah, he's in his natural habitat.
It lives by itself in a research lab. That's why
Coco
it had a
does?
kitten, everything else.
And she actually wanted to get it on with Robin Williams back in the day.
The fact of...
Who doesn't, girl?
Yeah. The fact of, bringing any primate away from a primate society and making it human, so to speak, and then trying to put it back in.
Right.
It's been shown time and time again that it doesn't work.
Right.
Most of the time, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to the animal.
Coco the gorilla talked about love, mourning. It had a pet cat. It would sit there and pet the cat.
Right.
No.
Pretty extraordinary.
Absolutely. They definitely have a great capacity whenever they're taught things. The problem is that, like I was saying, you still have the fact that they, by all means, are still that animal that is 10 times stronger than a human being.
Right.
And do they have the capacity to know when to use that, how to use that?
Right.
Right.
It's kind of like
more than likely
not.
not.
Right.
More than likely not.
Well, Michael, when he was talking about the Animal Welfare Act and how what he was talking about was violating the Animal Welfare Act there at the Cincinnati Zoo, CNN obtained a letter that does not show any violations towards that act. But the act, the last time it was revised, when it was actually written, was in 1966 under Lyndon B. Johnson. 1966 to 2016, I think we might need some revision there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about distance, height of fence, and how we need to go. That I feel is a subpart to what's going on. To me, it boils down to the point of a mother with her 3-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. Is parenting issue.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like if she was an actual parent and a good guardian and actually understood, okay, look, Tommy, you're 3, we're going to go to the zoo. You need to stay with me at all times. This is just like everything that I've taught you since you were born.
Right.
You need to understand, you need to stay with me and you can't leave any sort of fenced area.
Right. But, for us in the age that we're all at, that's something we can understand. Okay? A lot of times when kids are that age, the processes in their brain and the synapses are not the same. They're not.
But
I don't know. But when I was 3 and I went to a zoo, I didn't want to go jump the fence. My mother told me to stay with her.
I taught 4, 5, and 6. I've taught age 4 to 40 at some point in life. And I've had classes of 4, 5, and 6-year-olds that I've taken to the zoo. I've had classes of junior high and high school people that I've taken to the zoo. Mm-hmm. And 4, 5, and 6-year-olds are so much easier to handle. And I'm talking about me, a parent, and 20 kids.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
The legal limit at the time 1 to 10. Now it's a lot closer to 1 to 6 or 7.
Right.
Whenever you have a field trip, that you're supposed to have that many chaperones per kid.
Correct.
So even as a single parent, whenever you're there with 2 or 3 kids, you know, you tend to have a presence of mind, especially whenever that's going on. You're probably having a conversation about the gorilla.
Yep.
One would hope.
Right.
One would hope that you, as the adult, are not so mesmerized by said gorilla that you aren't paying attention to the 3-year-old child and their experience of that gorilla.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, you know, I agree to a point, and then you know, again, who is at fault is
I say
again,
two parties are at
it's-
fault. I say
well,
the Cincinnati Zoo and the parents.
well,
That's
yeah.
what I-
Well, I
But
mean,
where is the Cincinnati Zoo at fault? Sorry, Fitz, to interrupt you. I just want to understand, where are they at fault?
Providing that hole for that kid to go through.
right.
The Animal Welfare Act that they're supposed to follow.
Exactly. So if you, I mean, it probably was something. It's very likely that it just went overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, it very likely was something that they just, you know, they just didn't think about it because they'd never had an issue with it before. You know, which is the way that most like tragedies and like serious things happen.
The
right?
kid could be a climber. I'm here to tell you right now. I remember my nephew, Nathan. I'm going to embarrass you right now, Nathan. You're 15 years old. But here's the thing. He was probably about 3, right up around this age. And my mom lived in a townhouse. He had a little trike. He loved being on his trike. And it was like, I want to go outside. And it's, you can't go outside, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm upstairs doing my music thing. My mom's downstairs. She fell asleep. Woke up. Nathan's gone.
Yeah.
Now, we have a security gate on the back door. Security gate's locked.
Right.
He literally straight up squeezed through that security gate
Yeah.
Whoa.
and got out.
Whoa.
And I mean, buck naked, son.
Yeah.
Buck naked.
So you know,
On his trike, just booking it. Like
his
I
trike.
caught him close to the road. Like I was bare feet running through the neighborhood trying to find him.
Were you butt naked?
It can. I was not. My feet were buck naked. He was butt naked.
Right.
But you know, it
that-
can happen rapidly.
That's what I'm
It, it can happen.
That's the
Like
point
they
I'm
can
trying to make.
they can squeeze through bars. Their
Right.
bones are not
Right.
set the way ours are yet.
Well, but and that's the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, I think, especially in this situation, and like to your situation that you were talking about with your nephew, right?
Yeah.
Right? You know, does the
naked
fact,
Nathan.
right? Does the fact, you know, like the fact that happened, does that make your mother a bad grandmother? Or does it make you a bad uncle? No, it doesn't. You know, these
Unless
things
you
can
have
happen so
previous
quickly.
cases.
And well, I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, child neglect is a way too prevalent thing
Absolutely.
in multiple facets in multiple ways. But what I'm saying about this particular situation, this kid getting into this gorilla enclosure. We don't know the exact circumstances. There is a serious potential that that mom just wasn't fucking paying attention. I mean, I was in the state capitol last weekend with Jen and her family because Jen graduated from grad school last weekend. Congratulations from UT.
UT.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jen.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
very, very
really
good.
proud of her.
Yeah.
And,
Hell yeah.
And so we had a big day Saturday, and then on Sunday morning, Jen and I we met up at their hotel and had breakfast, and then we were like, hey, let's do like something like cool in Texas, right? And it was kind of a crappy day outside, so we went to the Texas Capitol.
Yep.
And we were up on either the second or the third floor. And we were walking around looking at the Supreme Court room
Right.
Yeah.
and whatever. And then all of a sudden we turn around and there's this kid running around. Probably a 3-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Just running around. And like,
Yeah.
so it was all of us. And then there was another family of like 4 or 5 people who was in that same little area or the same little kind of alcove off of the main like rotunda.
Sure.
Okay. And the other family was like, do you guys know this kid? And we
You
were
know
like,
who this belongs
And we were
to?
like-
Oh, this blows.
and we were like,
Seriously.
no,
Yeah.
no, you know, and we were like looking around and we were like, you know, all of a sudden, because again, we're up on the second or third level, all of the railings have a gap of at least 8 inches in them,
Yeah.
if not a foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a child
That could fall 2 stories
down
to a granite floor.
Yep,
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
base
wow.
of the Texas Capitol. Okay?
Yeah.
This kid's running around.
Yeah.
Right? So we're looking around, like
Jeez.
on edge, like kind of, like following this kid for a second, and this
Right.
kid ran back out to the rotunda, and all of a sudden we see this woman who is messing with her selfie stick,
Oh my goodness.
and
Now,
she was like, we were like, hey, do do you know this child? Like, whatever. And this woman was like, oh, yeah. And she was like, hey, come over here, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Come here.
So that is a situation where it's like, okay.
So we should pull cell phone records from this 3-year-old mother, see what she was doing.
Well,
granted, I've yet to confirm it. I've seen it from a couple different sources that she apparently has a record of neglect with her child. She's been reported for cases where
That's what
she
I was
didn't
getting
pay
at.
attention. This is the mother in Cincinnati. Yeah,
Really?
That's
I hadn't read
what I've
that.
seen so far. And it's only been on a couple places. I've yet to see it through major news sites.
Well, but that's
until
the
it's
thing.
reported through anything major, I'm not going to say anything.
Well,
but,
and that's what I'm saying. It's
Because see, in
it's
the video,
speculation.
she didn't sound like a mother who was so concerned. You can't. A normal mother to me would have been so hysterical. All she was saying was something or other. I'm right here, I love you, or something like that.
But if you're a mother and your child all of a sudden is in that situation and you have no control over that situation, what else are you going to do?
Right.
Are you going to freak out and potentially freak your child out?
That
or
would
are
be
you going to
rational.
try to comfort
that
your
would
child?
be like rational thinking. That would be ideal.
Forget freaking the
But a
child
mother,
out. You don't
a
want to
mother
freak out
would
the
not
gorilla.
even think about that
Right.
and just freak the hell
Right.
out normally.
Yeah. Well,
A normal
maybe,
mother.
maybe,
But
that's
You
all
don't know.
speculation, and that's
Right.
a big generalization. And I only bring up the point because if all of a sudden you're in that situation and you see your child in that fucking situation, what do? Like, sure, you're freaking out inside, but your main concern is your child. And if you're trying to like calm down your child and whatever, I mean, your child is in a life or death situation. So, I mean, I think there's a serious potential that this woman realized that there was nothing she could do, and freaking the fuck out and screaming was not going to do her child any good or the gorilla any good.
Yeah.
So if she's yelling, being like, "It's okay, baby, I'm right
I
here,"
love
like
you.
that sort of thing, that is also a defense mechanism that comes from the exact same place as hysterics.
Right.
It really does. It comes from the absolute core and the absolute like primal part of a human mind.
Now,
So
and that's absolutely true. I mean, I like to say that I'm fairly calm and cool and collected in an emergency. I've been in quite a few of them. My wife's even seen me, like, when an accident happened on the side of the freeway.
Yep.
Like, pull over and render aid and take care of people.
Absolutely. I'm the same way.
And she accredits that to one of the reasons why she married me, because I was so entirely cool and calm in that situation when it happened. But in those reports, it also said that the lady cares for children for a living. Now,
Right.
whenever you care for children for a living, you tend to have a different vigilance is the only word that I can say. Different vigilance. Because, you are the one that's responsible for other people's children. You are the one that's responsible whenever that's happening. Like the teachers in Houston, whenever the kids got into the enclosure. Like, how did that happen?
Right. Yeah.
How were you not there? How was there not a parent amongst any of those kids?
Right.
How was there not a chaperone there?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
But when you're talking about like what you were saying, when on field trips, the basic standard is one adult for every 10 kids or thereabouts.
That was in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's totally different now. You're looking much more to a 1 to 5 to 6 ratio.
Even still,
And
when you're talking about an adult watching one child
Yes.
versus an adult watching 6
that's a
children, or when you're talking about
it's
when you're
about being on your game.
well, no, right.
It's what it is.
Well, but
Quite honestly,
when
it's
you
about
think
being
about
present in mind.
Yeah, when you think about caretakers and like babysitters and things like that, like yes, you have a job to do, but you have an incredibly difficult job trying to like wrangle that number of children. So you have to strike a balance between control and watchfulness over those children and giving them just enough freedom so that you know where they're at, but you're not constantly like
Hacking.
I mean, exactly, because there's
But
no way. I mean, I'll tell you straight up. Like, I mean, my girlfriend is an elementary school teacher, and I remember going to an event at her school where I was talking to the kids because all the kids came to see me in Cat in the Hat at the ZAC, and then after that we did a workshop with them, right? So I went to this school. And I spoke with and did like random exercises with like 60 kids, right? Something like that. And yes, they were all like sitting in one room, all sitting down, whatever. But controlling them is almost impossible.
It's an art.
Right. I mean, it literally
controlling the attention of them.
The patience that my girlfriend has and the rest of those teachers have for children of that age, 4 to 5 year olds in elementary school, it really is controlled chaos.
Well,
and chaos is the key word in that.
Okay, that's with a group of many children. We're talking about one here.
Right.
We're
Well,
also
and then how
talking.
many mothers go to the zoo with their 3-year-old son?
Well, quite a few.
Plenty.
Quite a
many.
few. Without incident, quite a few. Like hundreds of thousands. This is in the realm of getting struck by lightning because your kid went running out in a field. And he got struck by lightning. Like, those are literally the odds of this happening. So please, people, don't stop going to zoos. Don't do anything like that.
Or like winning the Powerball on the satellite dish.
But at the same time, we're talking about the fact of one parent, one kid. We aren't talking about the fact of a teacher with a classroom full of kids. I've been in charge of a classroom of 20, 30 kids.
Right, but I mean, the point is...
It does take a lot to quell that. It does take a lot to control that energy and to make it into something that things can happen within.
Well, and it takes a lot to control one child, is the point I'm trying to make. What I'm really saying here, in a nutshell, is when it comes to this mother in this situation, I don't think that it is fair to give her the full benefit of the doubt. I also don't think it's fair to completely call her and villainize her
absolutely not.
For this situation, because I don't think I really none of us know the situation.
Right.
However, and her us being she is totally at fault. She's a bad mother.
Nobody's saying she's totally at fault.
I mean, I just want to make the clarification because absolutely. I do think that there needs to be some understanding of all sides here, and that it was an incredibly unfortunate situation.
Oh, absolutely. It was an incredibly unfortunate chain of circumstances.
Right, definitely.
It wasn't just one circumstance. It was numerous circumstances that occurred at the same time. And they all, just ice-balled into something bigger at the bottom of the hill.
Exactly.
Now, the question that I posed was, and it's something that I saw as an assistant youth minister, as a teacher, where parents just don't seem to care anymore. Now, you see a lot in the news where parents are getting arrested, for God's sake, letting their kid go down the road and play at the park. Good God, I remember riding my bike for miles.
Right.
While my mother would be serving prison time now.
Right.
The freedom that I had as a latchkey kid.
Right.
And the things that I did, I would probably be presumed a terrorist now.
Right. Exactly.
I would be locked up as a
like
domestic
Thomas Paine,
terrorist.
right?
Jeffrey Dahmer
straight
status.
Up, but I saw parents come and drop junior high kids off at a dance that ended at 11 o'clock and never once stepped foot into the room. Literally just pushed them out of a rolling car almost. I'll be back at 11. And even this weekend, I was in Houston for the Comic-Con, and my nephew was going out to a party at a water park. And he's like, it just blows my mind that a parent isn't taking all the kids to the water park. They're having us come drop them off. How are we supposed to meet this parent that's in charge of our kids?
Right. Right.
And that's just the mentality that seems to go on now. I remember back in the day, I didn't spend a damn night at somebody's house that my mom hadn't met this person.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. Now it just seems to be this drop-off mentality of they'll literally drop these junior high kids off in front of the house and just roll off.
Yep.
Well, they don't even come in and say hi, all kinds of stuff.
The point, not the point.
Like I said, the presence of mind is what amazes me. The lack of presence of mind.
I feel like there is other things that we can learn from this experience.
Absolutely.
To help this kind of situation in the future, instead of having to kill a Western land, lowland gorilla. because a boy fell in there and the gorilla wasn't posing a threat to this boy.
Well, that's up for debate.
That's up for debate.
That's up
Most
for debate,
of
but from what I've seen
the
from the video-
professionals are saying that it was the right thing to do.
It
That
might be the right thing to do to kill the animal.
They erred on the side of caution. Now the question is, how scarred is this kid going to be from life?
Well, that's the thing is, what is this child going to learn from this experience? Like,
Hopefully
if
not
I
to
get
go
in a bad
through a friggin' enclosure.
if I get in a bad situation, just kill the other motherfucker.
Well, I don't.
I
don't think.
I
think.
It's not that I might be going off on a tangent with that, but the thing is that we also need to figure out what we can do to help an endangered species that has been taken out of his home and brought to a zoo for people to spectate. What can we do to ensure the safety of that gorilla and to ensure the safety of a child that falls into this situation?
Well, what
do we need to do to not have to kill an animal?
I
mean, animal lives matter, right?
To your point.
exactly.
To your point earlier about the Animal Wellness Act or whatever you're mentioning. I mean, a simple day of welding extra bars and whatever could have prevented this.
Shut down the enclosure and
truly
make
like
it better.
2 feet up, solid steel. Between 2 feet and 5 feet, a viewing area with a 4x4 square, so no one can get through that. A meerkat might, but no human being can.
Well, the fact
but you
is,
can see the animal, and then from up there, a T-Rex can't go through that. shit.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be happened.
But
the crazy thing is, there's a couple more stories very similar to this that happened prior to this one.
Yes.
How about that?
Well,
That's kind of interesting.
Well, and it does happen, like I said, it's on the regularity of getting struck by lightning.
In a gorilla enclosure.
Right, it doesn't happen all the time, but if it does happen again in the future, what can we do to ensure the safety of both parties in this situation?
And that's exactly what's going to happen because this was a
I hope so, because it hasn't, Fitz, because we've had incidents like this before, and they have been tranquilized, which is okay, fine. They're still alive, and some have been shot, and some haven't. Some have actually taken the child to the rescue of the paramedics.
Right, that's
but
true.
we just need to 86 the situation. Period.
Right, exactly. But that is very difficult to do in a lot of circumstances.
Yep.
I'm not defending anybody here.
I know you're not.
I mean, it really when you look at this situation, I mean that gorilla went over to the child and looked at it and grabbed it. And held it for a second, and then dragged it through 20 feet of water.
There was at some point he put him in a corner and he backed up to him, kind of like a protective type deal.
Right.
But at the same time, he dragged him through 20 feet of water. Yeah. And had he gotten more panicked, had anything else happened, he might have
like I said,
all he has to do is pull a little bit too hard, and that kid's arm is completely off.
Very true. But I've seen that the Western lowland gorillas. I've seen them in their captivity. I've even did some research on the video. They normally drag their young, or their young follows them. Right. They're not an invasive creature, but they don't understand. Oh, Timmy, it's okay. They're come with me, Timmy.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm just trying to prove a point.
Of course.
That's what they are known to do.
Well,
and they didn't hurt the child, and yes, he might have dragged him through 20 feet of water, but we're talking about 6 inches depth.
What about the zoo people getting the spectators away from it and pushing them back, saying, hey, we have an issue here?
Didn't do that. They just shot the gorilla in front of thousands of people.
Well, the problem is you have to worry about how fast that gorilla can panic.
Very true. That's exactly true. A tranquilizer might not work in that situation.
On the side of caution.
We'd like to thank everybody very much for tuning in for this exciting episode of the Dudes and Beer podcast. Thank you so much. Keep tuning in, everybody. Dudesandbeer.com. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Take care. Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Dudes and Beer podcast. Visit us online at www.dudesandbeer.com. Find our audio streams on soundcloud.com and spreaker.com/Dudes and Beer. Follow us on Facebook /Dudes and Beer. Thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, drink responsibly.